Hey, so we're back, episode 71. I'm pleased that you've all joined us. I have to say, me bad, I've been pretty poor about getting these out, but COVID for me has been fantastic for the podcast, because now everybody who was scared of Zoom is now no longer scared of Zoom, and they're absolutely fantastic about doing these podcasts. So I'll tell you who we've got on this week. It's episode 71. We've got Alex McTurk, AB Property Consultants. He's happy to come on and have a chat. He's on the other line, so we'll introduce you to him, and we'll just get cracking. Alex, I'll give you a little bit of background of Alex. So he's had a couple of years in the police, so we'll make sure we have a chat about that. He started his career at Benson's. He had a number of years there, 9 good years at Benson's, and then we're interested to see how he decided to go to Allen and Harris. Lasted a couple of years there, and then back to Benson's, and then landed at AB, and he's been there, I think, for about 5 years. So, Alex, welcome onto the show.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Glad to be here.
Good. So, tell me, first of all, let's get started. COVID, how is it affecting you guys out there?
We've all had to adapt quickly. We, like everybody, have staff working from home. Within a couple of days, we were able to get things up and running. The customer-facing stuff, everybody's definitely missing interaction with other staff in the office. Morale is quite high. We're keeping contact every day. So far, everything is as good as it can be, I guess.
And have you furloughed any staff? Are you considering furloughing any staff?
Yes, we've had to, just because some of the staff do specific job roles that are not being performed just now. Inspections, we have someone who does only inspections, only check-ins. Due to the volume of lettings properties we have, accompanied viewings with someone who does accompanied viewings, and these people just don't, there's nothing they can do just now, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, you said that you were having some fights with solicitors. We all like a fight with a solicitor or two. And I know with registers having closed down, and then they've now got this workaround, but they're still, I think, saying that it's only for transactions which are potentially going to cause hardship that you can actually try and get over the line. What's the feedback been from the solicitor side as far as that's concerned?
The solicitors, I think, just needed a wee nudge along at the start. We've found that if we can lean on somebody to get an unoccupied property, for example, somebody buying a buy-to-let, if we can lean on them a wee bit, get the transaction over the line, it means that we can get emergency accommodation available to people who need it. But the lawyers just pretty much took a carte blanche approach and said, we're not doing anything. There was the odd exception. I think the furlough system played a big part in that, though, because there's a lot of lawyers saying that their staff are furloughed and they don't have any support to continue the transactions. But all in all, we've managed to settle almost 70% of what we had pipelined this month. But what I would say is, the pipeline for the future is pretty dry, and that's something that we'll need to very quickly work on for the sales side of things.
I think for the estate agents, I think that's going to be a problem moving forward. Eventually, the valuers will start valuing again. The estate agents will open up again, and people will start looking to buy property. But the concern I've got is that there will be this black hole of however long where there's nothing, because we're still trying to recreate the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest problem we're going to have is exactly that. However, the buyers are raring to go. We're seeing leads. We're responding to every single lead that comes in. We're trying to cross-sell every single lead that comes in. We're generally just trying to do everything we can to make sure that the anticipation's there as soon as the floodgates open. We reckon that, today we've actually just sold the property from a virtual viewing I had done last week to a buy-to-let landlord who's going to furnish it and actually give it out to the NHS for free accommodation. We've already had a few that's done that already, but they need, people are, where it can be done, we're trying to do it. But other than that, the general house moves hopefully will open up again pretty soon.
Yeah. And how do you feel about the market itself? Because one of my concerns is that we've got this issue with trying to keep people alive, etc., and making sure that we dampen down this curve. But as the longer that goes on and the longer that we're in lockdown, the more decimation there's going to be on the economy. And my concern is that there might be businesses out there who just don't start up again. I mean, there was something on the news there yesterday that they're incredibly fearful that that's the case. Now, that's going to end up meaning that people are going to have to probably, there's going to be redundancies on the cards. There's going to be people that are probably going to have to take a cut in a salary. And my concern is that that potentially is going to then feed on to a lack of desire to want to buy property. What's your take on it?
I think people are going to be more sensible. People were starting to forget the value of money for a while there.
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
agree with that.
A lot of new build purchases going through where the property, you know, any virtual valuations I'm doing just now is some 19, 20-year-old couples, you know, in £250,000 new build houses, and they're worried. People paying £200,000 for a semi-detached in this area where we are just now. I mean, in my view, that's insane. It's never been there before. I think that in 2007, it crept up on everybody. Now, hopefully, we can plan that things are going to be, you know, there's a bumpy ride ahead. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But if the banks keep lending, which was obviously the main problem in 2007, 2008, then we should hopefully be able to smooth it out a wee bit. I just think that people will be more cautious about what they're paying. I think over home report will start to change. I think it will go back to a house is worth what it's worth, and you know, rightly so. And I think there'll be a wee bit oversupply for potentially another six months to a year, maybe a year and a half.
And that's ultimately going to dampen down the market because it is, every market is supply and demand, and if there's an oversupply and there's not the demand there, then the prices are going to level out, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Emotions play a big part in property purchases, and we are seeing a house selling one side of the street, you know, great condition, 200,000, one coming on across the road needing a ton of work doing to it, and people going crazy and paying 200,000 for that, and that's where the market's stepping up. But just now, I think when the kind of oversupply comes back in, we'll probably find things to start to slow down a wee bit. I'm looking forward to seeing the changes in the market. I don't think it's going to be a bad thing, to be honest with you. We need it, and it's better done sooner rather than later.
So listen, let's talk about the elephant in the room and the police. That was obviously a career that you were keen on doing right from school?
Yeah, I was 16, one of the first intakes of police cadets, plucked from school, 16-and-a-half-year-old. I stayed there until I was almost 20. And to be honest with you, I loved my time there.
Yep.
The police was changing. You maybe remember that was around about the time when they changed from the white shirts into the kind of black short sleeve polo shirts they wear now. And, you know, that was a visual change at the public scene, but behind the scenes there was a lot more change going on. And I think at that point I decided it was a wee bit like school from school, but I took a lot from it. I done a lot of diversity training. I worked in a Ashcraig special needs school for 3 months. I worked in a nursery. I worked in a integration centre for asylum seekers for a period of time as well. And wow. I think I took a lot away from my time in the police, and it probably has led me to be as independent as I am today.
And when did you make the decision then to move away from the police?
The decision to move away was a wee bit controversial because I had basically gone to Canada on holiday. I've got family who stay over there, and I had a 2-week holiday. And when I was over there, I was enjoying it so much, and I was pretty stunnered at coming back. Young mentality as well at the time. Yeah. And I phoned my boss and I says, "I'm not coming back." And he said, "No, it doesn't work like that. You get a notice period, etc." So, yeah, it didn't go down that well. But to be fair, I left in good terms. A lot of my friends are still in the police, and I've got a lot of respect. I think they do a great job, to be honest with you.
But what was it particularly that when you were over in Canada, you just thought, you know what, I'm not going back?
I think I just started to dream of being a bit more free. When you're at school, you get to a stage where you think 16, 17, maybe 18-year-old, and then I can leave. I can go to college, or I can do whatever I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. But that never came for me, and I constantly waited on it. And the police is really like school from school. You've got Tully Allen, you've got Jackton, you've got a lot of regimented, you know, structure to your life at that point. I think I just wanted to cut the ties free a wee bit. Obviously, I had seen some stuff as well that was pretty grim for my age. I would say I seen dead bodies, autopsies, things that were pretty horrible, you know. And you can imagine it, maybe, I think it was about 17, 18 the first time I seen anything like that. And it's, you know, it's probably, I've seen my other friends starting to get out and party at the weekends and I'm on the night shift, you know.
It wasn't quite like Taggart then.
No, definitely not. And it's changed a lot since now.
Yeah, so they say. So they say.
It was.
And then, so you came back and you broke the news to your parents that you know, that great career that you were going to have in the police, and you decided. Well, what did you decide?
Well, it never went down well with the parents, to be honest.
But it didn't.
They had just got round the circle of friends telling everybody that I was in the police and how great my son was doing, and then all of a sudden I was unemployed. And then to make it worse, I went to be an estate agent. So, you know, like.
And why estate agency? Talk us through that move.
The move to estate agency, when I came back, my mum said to me, "You're not lying in your bed all day, get down the job centre." So in honesty, I walked into the job centre, filled out a wee form. The lady came back and says, "I've got a job at Benson's, go for an interview." Went and done that, and you know, that was the start of my career.
And so Benson's, East Kilbride estate agent, probably one of the bigger players in East Kilbride as far as estate agency is concerned. And how did the progress go from there?
When I started in Benson's, I'm quite a curious person, so I was constantly getting involved with what everybody else was doing in the office. And you know, I found that I was brought in to kind of fill a need that technology was coming in at that point. We had round about that time was the introduction of like Wi-Fi. It was introduction of, you know, really a spreadsheet, for example.
So when would this have been? What kind of timeline is that?
That was about 2004-ish, round about then.
Right.
And the technology was actually meaning that I had more and more free time. So I started to look at what everybody else was doing. I started to get involved doing things like the VAT, for example. It just started to become an all-rounder in the company. And then in 2007, they had made, you know, some redundancies at that point due to the change in the market. And I had picked up essentially 2 roles within the office. And you know, that's probably where I really started to learn the trade, really.
So you stayed there, what, 9 years, I think? Yes. And then was it the lure of Allen and Harris? Talk us through that, because they would have probably been one of your competitors out in Hamilton. And did they come to you and chap at your door, or did you get maybe fed up at Benson's? Why did you move from Benson's?
I was. My area director at Benson's Allen and Harris had phoned several times, and he was, you know, "Why don't you come and give corporate agency a try, blah, blah, blah."
So you were tapped up?
Pretty much, I think. I would like to think that anyway. But I absolutely, you know, I went to Allen and Harris because I wanted a bit more structure and honesty. Independent estate agency, and anybody in independent estate agency would probably agree, things don't really, in a corporate company, they flow, you know, task to task. There's a real structure to how things work. And I wanted to see that, and I get involved in everything at Allen and Harris. You know, I was in every corner of the company. You know, I just was really curious, and I took a lot away from Allen and Harris as well. I mean, it was a huge learning curve for me.
And did Benson's tap you back up? Because you went back there.
The strange thing is, I had gone on holiday that summer. And decided,
that's holiday. I tell you what, you don't want to be going on holidays. That seems to be the problem with you.
I was reading a book. I think it was actually Duncan Bannatyne's book, and
the ice cream. Is that the one where he does the ice cream vans?
I think it was his very early one where he was telling about how he started out in the doing the care homes, and it was right back at the start. And I thought to myself, this looks easy. You know, this guy started with nothing, and here he goes. He's, you know, gyms and everything now. You know, so I thought to myself, right, I'm going to give that a bash. So I started to arrange viewings for commercial units that were unoccupied, and I went to one. It was the old Shepherd's office in the corner of Campbell Street in Hamilton.
So this was whilst you were where? Back at Benson's?
No, I was at Allen and Harris at this point.
Okay, yep.
And I was kind of thinking to myself, I might go it alone. So I started to have a wee look about, went to interview the premises, and there's, you know, the owner of Benson's standing, and he's looking at me saying, "What are you doing?" And I'm looking at him saying, "What?" You know, vice versa. So we decided at that point, rather than me go it alone, that we would do I would take essentially a kind of mini franchise from Benson's.
Okay.
So that was the start of that. So I had a wee bit of backing to get things up and running, and then I ended up basically left to my own devices in the Hamilton branch. They didn't get involved. We done sales, we done lettings, we done really well from that branch.
And what did you learn? So when you moved from Allen and Harris, what was your takeaway from that? What was the most important thing you learned from that?
Um, I can't say the words that I want to say, but I felt that the corporate world, needs to loosen up a wee bit. You know, there seems to be often one focus, one thing in mind, whether that be mortgages or whether it be estate agency. I was told when I started at Allen and Harris that this is a mortgage company that sells houses, and for me, from the off, I didn't like that. I didn't agree with things like they had a thing called buyer's incentive, which is £1,000 off, and the actual logistics behind it was great, and it fed mortgage appointments into the branch. But I felt there was too much emphasis placed on mortgages and less placed in selling houses. And I'm an estate agent, you know. I couldn't. I'm not massively interested in mortgages, other than knowing somebody has one.
I have to say, it's very interesting you talk about that in the corporate culture, because there is this corporate culture that the corporates would like you to think, and that's their sort of exterior voice. But then actually when you get inside the corporate and you go to all the trainings and how the companies actually works is a lot of the time completely different to how they would want to be perceived in the marketplace.
Absolutely. I call it cat kicks dog, you know, and it just basically means that the message gets passed through 10 people to get to the front line. And, you know,
Yeah.
And, you know, it's you know, I seen the moving from basically the front line being a branch manager, which is where I started out.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen the processes behind the scenes and how information was passed. And that's one of the things I just felt that, you know, because at the end of the day, if somebody loses faith in a process, maybe not necessarily at the front line, but at an area director role or a regional director role, the message isn't passed, you know, enthusiastically to the people that are actually dealing with it. And then you have a kind of, you know, regional way of dealing with things, and that was probably my biggest frustration. Really, I had some great, absolute great memories from Allen and Harris. I've got everything. I really enjoyed it, but I took as much knowledge as I could from them.
Yeah, and then off to Benson's then. And what do you think that they saw in you that they thought, you know what, Alex, he's the man?
I'm loyal. They know that they can trust me 100%. Whatever I would give them, you know, I think I'm the most honest estate agent I know. I've always been upfront with people. If I've got any issues, I'll speak to them about them. And we had a really good way of working, being the owners of Benson's. So I really enjoyed my second spell there as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then on to AB. Talk us about how that all transpired.
AB was my business partner, Bill Muir. He's B of AB. I'm A,
Yes.
Alex. We had a chat and decided at that point it was time maybe to look at, you know, going it completely on our own. The Benson's setup was fine, but there was a couple of wee issues that I'm sure everybody with a franchise has, whereby maybe you need an extra staff member. If you're selling 10 houses, you can operate with 2 members of staff. We got to a stage where we had 110 for sale, and I was sort of beating the drum about, I need somebody else. I need another set of hands to answer the phone, for example.
Yeah.
And I just really wasn't getting that. And I always feel that if I go to evaluation, I'm selling that person my personal standards. And if the office isn't servicing those standards, then it's a reflection on me. It's not a reflection on the company. So that was my biggest reason for leaving them. And when I came to start at AB, I brought those same values. And that's why, I mean, what I would suggest is overstaffed in this office. And we leave no stone unturned. And we use a lot of the Allen and Harris processes that I had been taught at my time at Allen and Harris to deliver a really good independent service.
So Bill does the mortgages out there, and then you've got who does there's somebody there, a woman, what's her name? Or Chrissy, yes.
Yes.
So back in the day when because I wear two hats, okay, so my background's a legal background, 20 odd years as a solicitor dealing with resi conveyancing. So I remember I went out to AV one time just to try and get some business. Now this would be, this would be 2003, maybe 2004 when I was at McDonald's. And I always remember every time I pass by, I always see the sign AV. And I fondly remember that. I can't remember, I think we got a bit of business from you guys. And then as with a lot of these things, unless you continue to speak to one another, it tends to wither on the vine. There has to be a sort of connection over and above what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis, and for whatever reason it just wasn't there. But she's still there doing the thing, is she?
Yes, Chrissy's still here, and I remember you personally from your time at McDonald's. I used to deal with Ian McKillop and Mona Murray at McDonald's, and I used to faithfully pass them business when I was at Benson's for many years.
Yes,
and I remember your name being there as well. Yeah, so you know that side of things. It's a small world, estate agency. I think everybody does somewhere along the line know everybody. And Chrissy's still here. Chrissy's I'm not going to mention her age, but she's one of the most knowledgeable members of staff in the office.
Yeah, right. So I hadn't realised that our paths had crossed then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. So you've been now there for how long? Have you been there? 5 years, I think.
Yes, 5 years. We've had the lettings company for 4 years and the estate agency company for 5.
Good. And are you doing any side hustle for yourself? Have you got flats? Have you got properties yourself that you look after?
No, everything that we do is focused around the business. We've got a secondary business, which is a project management company. That's where a lot of our energy and time is focused just now. It does some insurance work and various other things as well. It's independently run, so that side of things is taken care of separately. But that's where we're focused with energy. The market, for what I've seen in the timescales I've had, I think we got to that stage where the company itself has properties, but individually, I don't.
So tell me, it seems to have been not too bumpy a ride for you. What's been the hardest thing that you've had to deal with up until now?
The hardest thing I would say would be probably the introduction of online agents. There is a place for them in the market, but they obviously came in at a time where we were just starting to build the business. And if you're selling 20 houses a month, it doesn't have much impact, in terms of fees. But if you're selling 2 or 3, which we were at the time when the kind of main online agents came on board, it did probably hit us quite hard. Now, we never changed much. We just improved our services. We added in things like the videos. We've been doing the videos now for almost 4 years for every single property that we sell. And social media is huge for us. We get so much business from it, and we contribute a lot to the social media world for people that are looking for properties as well.
And so we've all made mistakes, and I think one of my biggest mistakes was to probably stay in the law for too long, because I just ended up getting completely scunnered by it all. And I guess, if truth be told, since the crash in 2008, where I was with McDonald's, we ended up I had to find a partner because the computer system was on its last legs, and there was various other partners who were keen to get out. And then I suppose then looking back now, you think your career goes on a straight line. But when you look back on it, it looks as if it was a straight line. But actually, when you're actually in the thick of it, it's very difficult sometimes to make decisions. How difficult of a decision was it to make to join AB?
The decision wasn't difficult at all. I think it was the biggest sacrifice I made was financially, because when you start a business, we essentially started it with fresh air. So we had, by that point, we didn't have a huge amount of money to put into the business. So we started with very little, and that was the hardest bit of it. In terms of anything I feel I've made a mistake with in business life, I think I've made the right moves at the right times, and I think I've been really lucky to do that. I think I moved from Benson's to Allen and Harris at the point where the market was starting to slip, and making a living at Benson's was becoming quite difficult the first time round. Allen and Harris provided a steady income and a chance to increase my knowledge, albeit on a lower income than I was at Benson's, but with more security. And then back again into the kind of Benson setup allowed me to take my knowledge, and with a bit of financial backing from the owners at Benson's to get things up and running. And then the jump to AB, at the end of the day, starting any business is going to be a painful setup process, I think. And a lot of things, right moves were putting credit cards for a few months, and there's a lot of looking back, pretty risky things done in the very early days.
But it's your baby. To a certain extent, as long as you're putting, or certainly I felt when we started up Bricks and Mortar, I felt that as long as I was putting food on the table, and luckily my wife working has got a good job, so and I had done relatively well out of the law, so there was that little bit of a cushion. But yes, ultimately you do take a drop in income, but for me, it was, I could do things my own way. I could decide how quickly I wanted to grow it, who I wanted to employ. And ultimately the buck stopped with me. And I think probably I was maybe yearning for that for a long, long time. And it was only when the decision was actually made that I decided that I realized that, it was the best decision that I've ever made.
Yeah, and I think if you've got some kind of security behind you, whether it's collateral or a partner to support you, then that's okay. At the point where I decided to go it alone, I was actually going through a divorce at the time, and had most of my assets at that point were disposed of, and it was a complete fresh start for me in every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
So looking back, I've no idea how I got through it, and this coronavirus thing just now is, it's not as difficult as the times were back in the very early days. And I keep reminding myself that. I keep my routine, and I get up in the morning and do as I did when I had no houses to sell in here, and continually beat the drum and just pray that, round the corner there's going to be, some sunlight, really.
You mentioned there about routine. I'd be interested just to see, do you have a morning routine that you constantly go through?
Yep, every single morning. I wake at the same time. We have a morning meeting in here at 8:45. I'm normally in just before that to prepare. Me and my business partner sit down and have a chat. All of the staff are involved in the morning meeting. We've continued that whilst the staff are working from home, and we have the Zoom calls in the morning, etc. And during the day we have a structure to our day, and the structure is there designed basically to make sure, first and foremost, that the customers that have maybe asked us about viewing a property, for example, are being serviced, and we're chasing them, they're not chasing us. But secondly, to make sure if there's any opportunities from that customer that we can take, the chance to, develop those opportunities. So we call the morning meetings called a morning opportunities meeting, and it's basically reviewing what we've done the previous day. If we've had 5 viewings, do they have, do they need mortgage advice? Do they have houses to sell? Who's cash buyers? Where are we at with the actual sales?
And you will just go through those prospective clients one by one, looking for potential opportunities. Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Every client, and this is something that we had taken from the Allen and Harris thing. They had a system called an applicant card, and it was very English, the applicant card they had, and we were made to use it in Scotland. So we have designed something in here which is an online form that the staff can fill out. And it's everything stored securely. We can access it. We can recall it. We can, anything. We can keep track of where people are at with their own, system really.
Mm-hmm.
We send an email out to people asking them to authorise that we can keep them updated with any products that we have available. For example, mortgage products or free valuations, etc.
I'm always interested in how businesses keep in touch with their clients. How do you go about doing that?
Because of Chrissy, who we mentioned earlier, we do phone first. Phone, text, and email is the way that we handle these, and they're dealt with in that.
You still there?
Requirement to sell a house, etc. And
Yep.
then what we would do after that is, if we couldn't get you in the morning, we'd chase you again in the afternoon. Really, and at the end of the day, these people have asked us about viewing houses, so we're there to contact them. But phone, we've found a couple of the younger staff in the office tend to mix the phone, text, and email up a wee bit, and you find that they've just emailed 20 people and not picked up the phone. But if somebody gives you their phone number, phone them.
They hate the phone, the kids.
Yeah,
it is just something, I don't know what it is, but I think they've been brought up so much by text and Snapchat and everything like that they're just almost scared of the phone communicating. It's an odd thing. It's
insane. I don't understand why they do it, but at the end of the day, we just have to, that's things that we work on. We have a weekly training meeting, which happens on a Wednesday for sales and a Thursday for lettings. And that's just a wee extra 45 minutes. And it's just about everybody sharing their knowledge. There's no hierarchy in here. Everybody works in a level. And, we're happy for people to bring stuff to the table as well.
I suppose the argument from the kids is that, well, if they're been brought up on the phone, then the people potentially that they're contacting have also been brought up the phone, and they won't want to speak either. So they'll be quite happy just to keep contacted. But I'm not convinced by that, I have to say.
Nah, it's amazing how much information you can get out of a phone call with somebody compared to a text.
For sure.
It's definitely not the way ahead. But, again, I think this lockdown is going to teach everybody that, a bit of verbal communication, face-to-face communication, how much have we started to underappreciate that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I have to say we do a lot of text because I think the open rate for a text is much better than the open rate for an email.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. But an email, you can put more content into.
Of course you can.
You can attach a home report. For us, it's important that we're sending schedules out to people and just keeping people interested, because who knows, somebody could be sitting at 8 o'clock at night having a wee wine and they forgot about the property the next day, and all of a sudden some other agent's on their tail about something. So following day, everybody's emailed schedules, and we keep people, we call it in-house, we build a customer's journey, so that's a buyer's journey rather than a seller's journey as such. So if somebody asks about one type of property and we don't have anything just now, we get their permission to store their details, and we'll contact them in, let's say, a month's time if something similar comes on. So it's about just, nurturing that relationship with the buyers. Yeah.
You mentioned there about calling the meeting, what did you say it was, the opportunities meeting? Do you have any sort of mottos or affirmations that you have that you use?
What we use in the office is professional, simple, and straightforward. So these have been taken from my time at the previously independent estate agency and then at corporate agency. I think people overcomplicate things. So the process has to be straightforward, and we have to appreciate that not everybody's an expert. So straightforward is the most important motto, I would say. If somebody comes to us, it's, we treat everybody like they know nothing, and then we build on that relationship.
Yeah, and what about personal? Any particular personal mottos that you like? Affirmations? Cheesy the better.
I think
you tell me yours and I'll tell you mine.
Mike's got the best one. Mike's is just do it. And I
have you read Shoe Dog?
Nope.
So Shoe Dog is the memoir of the guy who created Nike, and I've just read it. I got it for Christmas, and for whatever reason, never read it. So I read it over about 3 or 4 days. Absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful, wonderful read. It takes him from in the 1960s. He goes out to Japan. Jack's in his job, goes out to Japan, gets a contract with a company, starts selling these shoes called Tiger shoes, and then falls out with the Japanese distributors. It's absolutely fantastic. You must get it. It's a brilliant read. Brilliant.
I'm going to read it. The one that my favourite book of all time is a book called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling, and it was written in the 1903, I think it was. And it's Frank Becker is the author of it. It's well worth a read. It strips out technology. It strips out basically even phones, and it's just about good old-fashioned face-to-face communication with people.
Okay.
It's about a guy who basically, he's an insurance salesman, and failed insurance salesman, becomes a baseball player, big league baseball player, breaks an arm, and basically thrown back into the insurance world. And this time round, he's living, and they just putting himself in front of people and helping people and being honest. The book, it's one of the best books I've ever read, and I've loaned it to quite a few other estate agents that I know, and everybody's loved it because it's very relevant to what we do.
Interesting. And tell me, when you loan books, do you actually get them back? I can't remember how many books I've lent people and I've never got them back.
Well, I thought that one was missing, and then I opened a suitcase that I didn't know I had, and it turns out it's in there. So, probably the time I went on holiday and decided to start the business.
Oh God, there's that holiday thing again. I tell you, your co-partner will be refusing to allow you to go on any holidays.
Yeah, absolutely.
So listen, I wanted just to touch on mentors and people who have helped you throughout your career to date. Have you got anybody in particular that you think, you know what, I'm glad I met them because they told me this, that, and the next thing, and without that, I don't think I'd be here doing what I do?
Yep. Are you there yet?
Yeah, my internet's been a bit wobbly. I do apologise for that.
It's okay. It'll probably come as a surprise to them when I say this as well, but I've got two friends, and they're actually our transcriptionists that do the typing. It's Brian Galloway and Ada Galloway. They own a company called Transcribe UK, so I'll give them a plug. They are the nicest people I know. They're very, very well connected, involved with the Federation of Small Business. Anytime I've ever asked anything of them, I'm actually scared to ask because they actually go so far out their way to make it happen. It's unbelievable. The most connected people I know, not industry related, but there's a lot of good advice. They're one of the people I've had a FaceTime call with during this lockdown, even though we can do no business together right now.
Wow. That's just amazing, isn't it? That they do say there's a quote about it's not what you do, it's not what you did for somebody, it's not what you do, it's how you make them feel and if you can have a relationship with somebody who just makes you feel fantastic, then it just gives you that little bit of a kick up the arse sometimes that we all need.
Yeah, I think I like to think of myself as that type of person. I pick up the phone. I've already spoke to 2 estate agents this morning and given them my opinion on something that they were asking.
Yeah.
I like to think of myself as an available person to anyone who wants to, seriously chat about anything in any line of business as well. I've been inspired definitely by Brian and Ada for that. Exactly what you said there. It's amazing the kind of difference people, just a bit of moral support sometimes, somebody just to say everything's going to be okay, you're away down the wrong path, take a turn here and everything will be fine.
Yeah. It's wonderful that, and so many people are more than grateful to give you that advice. And I think something with regards to advice is that you should always take and listen to the advice. Whether or not you take heed of the advice, it's very much down to you. And there's some advice you think, well, you know what, that's maybe not for me, but it's so important to listen to it and then utilize it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're one of the most influential people in business for me. And to be honest with you, I've probably only taken over 5% of their advice, if even that. But I do listen to it, and it's maybe not relevant at that point, but it's become relevant sometimes further down the line. But it's just about having an open mind and actually listening to people. That's a big skill that's been lost just now. Everybody wants to talk, nobody wants to listen. And, you know, I feel that they're the opposite way around. You know, when I went on the call the other day with them, they probably never get 2 words in. I just told them my life story and my woes.
It's interesting what you talk about with listening, and I'm a big believer that so many people listen on the basis that they don't, when they listen, what they are doing is they're just waiting to reply. They're not actually listening. So
Yep.
what you need to do is when you listen, the first thing is not how am I going to reply to that? It's can I learn from what they're saying? And that's such a difficult thing to do.
The easy test of that, though, is just stop talking mid-sentence, and it's amazing how many people just stop as well and change the subject. I think it's quite apparent, and you know, each to their own. If whatever they're doing works for them, and that's the most important thing. Keep an open mind, and nobody's opinion's wrong. I don't think.
I think that thing about the silence is absolutely crucial. There's many a time, especially in the estate agents who'd love to talk. There's not an estate agent who doesn't like to talk. And certainly one of the tricks I used to play about the negotiating side of things was just to have that pregnant pause, and you just never know what the estate agent is actually going to say. And if it's a negotiation, a one-to-one negotiation, they might actually let something out the bag that they would never have thought, just purely because there's a pause there. So many times that's worked. It's been the best, one of the best things that I use when we're on a one-to-one negotiation.
It works great. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great tool.
I just wanted to finish on plans and where you're moving forward. So have you got a 5-year plan? Have you got a 10-year plan? What's the future for you guys?
A fortnight plan.
let's assume that we're not in the middle of lockdown.
Yeah, I think the longer term plan, I mean, we'd love to go and open a second branch. And again, before the online agents came, it was always our idea. We wanted 2, maybe 3. We had grand plans, and you know, in our own mind, scaled them back and thought, you know, there's nothing we can't do from this office.
Yeah.
Probably like to. We're basically trying to close all the rings, really. We've got, you know, everything that we can do in-house, and we're at that stage, and that was my real short-term plan. Lettings, mortgages, you know, the project management and the estate agency. So if you buy a house, we can do a bit of refurb work to it, we can let it out for you, we can do the mortgage, we can do the mortgage, whatever is required. It's then just build on top of that and finding out what the business isn't could do improving. You know, for example, there's a couple of third-party services that we're not overly happy with. You know, we feel that we're not getting the service we should from them. And that's probably because people, again, are taking money for granted. Back 10 years ago, you'd get a far better service off of some of these people. You know, I'm not going to mention specifically what, but these businesses are ones that we're looking at and thinking, could we do this better, and could we, you know, help other estate agents do this better?
Yeah.
And you know, that's the kind of thing we're looking at now.
Interesting. Good stuff. And what anything that you're particularly working on at the moment?
Nothing. We're still working. We're now involved with a couple of insurance companies through the project management side of things. It's been great. We're just helping somebody just now whose house has been flooded, and we're trying to make sure that they've got alternative accommodation. So again, it links into the letting side of things, and making sure that the repairs are done on time and to a good standard. So that side of things is what we're putting a lot of into just now.
Good. And you said you like your motorbikes, and you're going to be doing some blood deliveries, I think I took from that. Have you passed the test yet? Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing there.
Yes, that'd have been embarrassing if you asked that question. I didn't pass yesterday. So Lifesavers Scotland, it's a voluntary organisation. You've probably seen them going about. They have the blue light bikes. And hold on a second, sorry, I've got somebody frantically trying to get me here. I'm just going to put my phone off. So they've got the blue light bikes that go around delivering blood and taking the coronavirus samples on transfer between labs and wherever. And basically, it's a very, very worthwhile cause, I feel. I've got my motorbike license, and if I can contribute towards maybe helping them some of the time while I've got some free time in my hands, I'm going to do that. So it's completely voluntary. It's a great cause.
Great. And is there anything I can do for you?
I'm loving them. I've not watched 70 of them yet, but I'll certainly be making my way through more now.
Good. Excellent. Well, listen, you've been a wonderful guest. Thanks very much for coming on. What I'll do is, there's very little editing, I have to say. I've only ever edited one podcast, and that's because the person swore.
Oh, yeah, I've avoided that.
So there's been no swearing, which is good.
I nearly swore. I nearly described the corporates, but I won't do that. No, they're actually very good.
No, it's been absolutely fantastic. And listen, thanks very much for that. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Jonathan. Thank you.